And then Joy Taylor, who used to work at FS1, and she's on her two personal podcasts with another woman, and talking about that the idea of legacy is silly, and that men wanting to have kids for their legacy, and that's kind of silly. And she talks about how she doesn't want children. Let's start with Joy Taylor's clip. Let's play SOT number 8.
And I have this conversation with men a lot because for whatever reason, I look like a breeder, and people will argue with me about having kids.
Oh yeah, no, you would be a wonderful woman for a man to have kids with.
No, I would be a terrible person to have kids with.
Well, you don't want the point I'm making is I understand why a man would want to get you pregnant.
I don't. Once I've said,
yes,
I don't want children, there couldn't be anything less appealing about me if you are someone who wants children.
No, absolutely. Right. But
however, there's many follow-ups.
Right. Absolutely. But I'm saying the reason of the why is, first of all, to get Joy Taylor pregnant and to say that I have a baby by Joy Taylor and no other man can say that.
Oh,
do you know how many men would pay buku money just to say I have a baby by Joy Taylor?
How much are we talking? There's no amount of money. There's no amount of money.
But no, I just want you to understand.
I love children. I just don't want to have them.
Right.
I think it's great to have children.
Right.
I just don't want to have them.
Right.
I'm going to shock myself and the audience by saying I don't have a super strong problem with what Joy Taylor's saying there. The other woman sounds silly, and the conversation in its entirety is silly. But Joy Taylor saying, "Look, I don't want to be a mother, and men should hear that and stay away from me. If you want kids, men should hear that and stay away from her if they want kids." She's acknowledging she has no desire to be a mother, and so that would make her a bad mother. Delano, I'm going to start with you. Delano, just your reaction to what Joy Taylor's saying there. Am I wrong for hearing her as she's actually making some sense?
No, you're not wrong at all, Jason. I mean, I tweeted this recently, a little bit before we came on, but I said I agree with Joy Taylor. When the general thrust of her comment, where she started by saying that a man who just wants to have a bunch of children isn't really serious about building legacy, particularly if he doesn't want to get married and start actually have a family and raise his own kids. So I agree with it there. And I also agree that women who don't want children should not have them. I think the worst thing to do to a child is to bring children into a world, into homes where they're not loved. That's different than saying, well, you should just abort children if you don't want them. I'm not saying that. I'm saying once the child's conceived, then they have a right to live. But if someone beforehand says, I do not want children, for me, if I was a single man today or back when I was, I just wouldn't date that woman, right? I just wouldn't. There would be nothing more for us to talk about. So I agree with Joy Taylor. I will say this, just to point this out, and Shamika's probably going to get there, so I'm going to steal it from her. The baby oil budget for that show must be about $1 trillion. Because
you need to apologize to me. You're stealing where I was going to go after everybody had their serious comments. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
So the other woman there is Kendra G, and she is a source of endless content. She hosts a show called Kendra G Show. It's a dating show where you get to see a very good cross section of what dating looks like in today's society. And Kendra looked like she's ready for the cast iron pan right about now. So I don't have a problem really with what Joy said. I'll end here though. I do think the conversation is important because Joy Taylor actually does believe in legacy, because I did just a little quick search. She's used the word legacy dozens of times on her own Twitter feed, but always in reference to an athlete's professional accomplishments. And my armchair psychological assessment is that the reason that Joy Taylor is so adamant about not wanting children is because she, like a lot of modern women, see her career accomplishments as far more important than her role either as a wife and or mother. So it's not that she doesn't believe in legacy. She just doesn't believe that legacy comes through building a family. And I do think that is emblematic of a much larger problem in our society today.
This will sound like I'm taking a shot at Joy, but I'm not. there's some self-awareness here in terms of,
Mm.
hey, I'm not going to conduct myself in a way that would be healthy to have kids. And I say that I think about my mother. One of the greatest gifts she gave me and my brother was after her and my dad divorced, as far as me and my brother knew, my mother dated a man named Andy for 5 or 6 years, and then she dated a guy named Joe Dickerson for 6 to 8 years. Other than that, that's all we knew about my mother's personal life is that she dated these guys. And too many of these women, when they get divorced or they have kids out of wedlock, it's a revolving door of men coming in and out of their home. And I think Joy, and I'm saying this sincerely, I think, and without trying to be, derisive or take a shot, I think she knows that she kind of likes a revolving door. She's talked about that publicly. And it's like, man, this ain't the behavior that would make me a good role model as a mother for a young boy or a young girl. So many young boys are scarred by the men that their mother bring into their, and they end up fighting with the men, arguing with the men, and all this other stuff. And so, this is Joy looked, in particularly in comparison to the Kendra, just looked really smart, and I gotta say, hats off to her.
Very
Anybody got
generous,
a follow
Jason.
up? Go ahead, TJ. What?
It's very generous what you just did for her. The flip side, maybe you're right, but the flip side of that is I am so self-centered, I could not imagine taking 5 seconds to take care of anyone else. And I think
Yes.
that's far more likely the scenario here than great self-awareness that she'd be a terrible mother.
Well, now hold for 1 second. I'm going to say she could reach that level of self-awareness because that used to drive my thinking. This is Jason. I used to tell people, man, the lack of responsibility, that's the key to happiness. I used to think that retarded, and it's a mistake. And so maybe Joy knows how selfish she is, and just like, man, that's just not me. Having to get up at 6 a.m. because some kid is crying, and now I got to go to baseball and football games I really don't have an interest in. Just sacrificing for some. Not, I think she may be aware that that's not me. That I like to sit in a beauty salon or in a makeup chair and have people fuss over me while I get ready to go on air and talk about nothing. Hats off.
fair.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead, Delano.
yeah, I was gonna say, in the spirit of charity, I actually don't think that Kendra G. I mean, the way she delivered it might not be for everybody, but I think she was actually making a very salient point, right? Which is that for the type of men that Joy Taylor is around, right? These are big game hunters, at least in their mind, and they would think if I put a baby in Joy Taylor, that's a major accomplishment. This is one of the reasons why a lot of these guys end up dating and having babies with the same set of women, right? Where Trayvon Diggs got a baby by the same woman as Future and Lil Bow Wow. So I don't think Kendra G was speaking for herself. She was speaking in terms of what other men may think, and there is something to say that for a woman, and guys talk about this all the time, like a woman who is hard to get is the type of woman that men like to chase, and one who is just open to everybody. Some guys will say, okay, I'll have my turn, but they don't see that woman as a prize necessarily. And whatever you may think about Joy Taylor, and there's some people who've had some extensive thoughts on Joy Taylor over the years. For a lot of guys, they'd say, look, the whole league tried to get at Joy Taylor, but I finally got her.
And we're successful, but go ahead.
Okay.
Right. But in terms of a baby, now those guys may be thinking of in terms of the baby, but I'll use another name, Jason, and you I think you might have talked about this a few months ago. When Taylor Rooks got married, there's a lot of guys online who had no shot at all, but said, man, right? Listen, man, this is, oh man, I wish I could have married Joy Taylor. And that to me shows the difference between the two women, right? For Taylor Rooks, it was, no, I want to be somebody's wife. And in terms of what Kendra G is talking about in this conversation with Joy Taylor, it's basically about, guys who want to make Joy Taylor their baby mama. And so I think there's something to be said for that. And the other thing, and TJ brought up the Bible, and obviously that's always good in these conversations, but it's not lost on me that in biblical times, a woman who could not have children cried out to God for him to open her womb.
That's right.
There's really no, not that I can think of off the top of my head, there's no examples of women who just said, well, I don't want kids because, my career threshing grain and, walking behind the ox is far more important than having children. But that is the phenomenon we have right now, which is an entire generation. And we're moving on to the second generation of women who just say, nope, it's not worth it. I'm not willing to trade the things that I think I would be losing if I become somebody's wife and somebody's mother for what I have right now in terms of my education and career. And as I said, that is one of the biggest problems facing the future of the American family. And I think Joy Taylor is just one very high profile symptom of that.
Like what you saw? Hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.